Hello, guys. Yeah, thanks for joining. But now you know why you should listen to Extra Mile. But why should you listen to me? So I've got 6 or 7 years experience in SEO. Started in the PR world doing in-house for a travel agent, and then started to move over into more content SEO role at an agency down in London. Really honed in on the strategy aspect over the past couple of years. So yeah, lots of background in content, SEO, and some in technical as well. So I've worked across a load of different industries, from manufacturing to travel, like I say, design. Even worked on some beer clients as well, which has been great fun. But yeah, now specialising within the B2B world. So I'm sure you're already familiar with the agenda for today, but just to remind you on, first we're going to go through Google's EEAT guidelines. We're going to break down each letter of its acronym, go into some detail about how to achieve success in Google's eyes. Then we're going to go into a little breakout session. So we'll put you into rooms where we'll have open discussion of how well your website performs for EEAT. And then we'll come back and get into some writing for conversions, writing unique content, and then there'll be a Q&A session at the end as well. So without further ado, what is EEAT? So it's a set of guidelines that Google lays out, that Google's laid out, that says this is absolutely imperative to make your website rank high in the SERPs, search engine results page. So breaking it down into 4 different keywords. So expertise, experience, authority, and trust. So when Google's laying out its recommendations as well, you need to sit up and listen. It's a massive, it has a massive share of how it has it's one of the biggest search engines in the world. So 95% plus users will use Google. Then there's Bing, and social media is becoming a little bit more of a search engine tool as well. But why does Google lay out these EEAT guidelines? Well, it wants to ensure that the content it ranks in its SERPs is credible, and it wants to make sure that it's sharing knowledge and experience to its users that are genuinely insightful and unique. So let's get on to how to establish expertise. So there's quite a bit of crossover between how to demonstrate all of the EAT guidelines, but this one's expertise. So number one, it's important to create a topical authority in your business area. So that means creating a lot of high quality blogs around different services that you provide, or different sectors that you might operate in. So it's a really key way of demonstrating a deep understanding of your subject matter. Another key point for expertise is keeping your content current and citing new research and data to support your claims. So how can you do that? You can do that through creating thought leadership content, publishing in-depth articles, white papers, and case studies on industry trends and best practices. And another way is linking through to expert author biographies as well. So if, for example, you have quite a high profile person in the business that's writing blogs, it's worth linking through to their LinkedIn profiles to make sure that Google's seeing trust signals through to people who have authority within the area. Another way as well is citing any industry certifications and accreditations. So that might be displaying any ISO certifications that you work towards and showcase. And it's also about creating high quality content answering search intent. So it's making sure that people are finding what they want to find. So that's expertise. On to the second E, and that's experience. So this one is one of the most important for showing real life examples and demonstrating an application of your expertise. So how can you do that? So that's through client testimonials and case studies. So on all websites that rank well, there's usually a case study section. So sharing stories of successful projects and any client satisfaction. That's a very that's what Google prioritizes quite highly. On to another point, the company history and milestones is a good way of demonstrating your experience as well. So highlighting your company's longevity from being established right the way through to the current day. That might be in, you can get quite creative with that in a timeline sense, or it could just be, blocks of text broken up with some multimedia, like images or infographics as well. And another thing that Google sees quite important from ranking well, particularly for a local SEO terms, is customer reviews and ratings. So encouraging clients to leave reviews on platforms like Google My Business or FIFO or Trustpilot. These are great ways of showing that you are credible and you have experience. Applying some schema markup, which gets more into the technical SEO side of things, but applying that structured data makes Google be able to really home in on what you're trying to demonstrate in terms of the reviews. And another way that you can showcase your experience as well is through the behind the scenes content. So typically that lends itself more to social media marketing, so using video on LinkedIn, etc. But there's a real push at the moment from Google to showcase the people behind the scenes and the processes behind the scenes as well. So step-by-step guides are a good way of doing that, where you demonstrate the ins and outs of the processes that you might have created as well. That's experience. And now onto authority. So this is where the crossover kind of starts to come into fruition here. So in the first, in expertise, we spoke about creating topical authority through blog posts. And this is where you can start to demonstrate more authority as well. So creating that bulk of content and encouraging any interactions with that content, sharing it on social media and email marketing as well is a good way of building your authority within your niche. One of the most important things within authority as well is earning backlinks from any trade publications within your area of business operations. So for example, in the manufacturing industry, you might be thinking of creating some high quality press release worthy content and sending it out to some manufacturing press. So the more authoritative your online presence, the more likely your content will rank well. So like I say, through backlinks from reputable websites, through media mentions and press releases. It's important to generate media coverage through digital PR. So any kind of link from an external website through to your own is a good, it tends to be a good signal, increasing brand awareness. And actively engaging with your audience on social media platforms like LinkedIn or X or Facebook, Instagram is another good way of demonstrating authority. It starts to tie together the whole marketing strategy. So that's what Google really prioritizes. Now, on to trust. So trust is the foundation of any successful online presence, really. Without having trust, you're simply not going to convert. So building trust with your audience does take time and effort, but it's essential for long-term success within digital marketing. It's achieved by creating extremely clear content, built by really nailing the fundamentals of copywriting on your website. So making sure that you're, again, fact-checking content, answering a search intent, and making sure that your website includes a cohesive internal linking structure as well. So that's a good way of demonstrating how different topics tie together within your website, which means that Google's starting to see how the different areas of operations will tie together. Another way of building trust is by making sure that your website is secure. So implementing SSL certificates, making sure that you're serving secure versions of HTTP, which is pretty standard across the board these days. With any decent hosting company, you'd always have that, but it's worth noting. And it's also worth noting as well that Core Web Vitals, which is another set of Google's guidelines for technical performance in SEO, can actually go towards building trust within the EAT guidelines as well. So having decent CLS, which is a content layout shift, having serving secure content, making sure that things load quickly and that your website performs well from that point of view, can actually demonstrate some trust within the content as well. So hopefully that is that's clear things up in terms of the EAT and what that is and what Google prioritizes. It's called keyword stuffing essentially, when you're cramming loads of keywords in, just to make sure that Google sees them with a higher chance of ranking. But the reality is you don't actually have a higher chance of ranking because it's seen as spam. So it's seen as something called black hat SEO, which is like the unethical way of doing SEO, so keyword stuffing and dodgy link building and stuff like that. I would say in an ideal world, like you would write without keywords even at the forefront of your thinking. Eventually you would just be answering pure search intent, obviously around kind of one main head term that you want to rank for, but you'd be writing for the user, because at the end of the day, if it doesn't make sense and it is just pure waffle, like you say, then yeah, there's no point in creating that content. Right, yeah, so we know how to rank on Google, so let's talk about how to make people convert. So there's a massive balancing act between ranking and converting, and to put it frank, there's no point in ranking high in the search if your content doesn't lead to any meaningful actions. So the key elements of conversion focused writing includes thorough research, compelling content, engaging storytelling, and making sure that your content is accessible to everyone. And at the end of the day, this is something we always like to bang the drum about in the office. Humans convert, not Google. So make sure you're writing for humans. So we always break down writing for conversions into these 3 stages. So number 1 is research, number 2 is engaging, and then number 3 is accessible. So just to start with the first one, obviously, because research makes sense to do it first. Your audience is always looking for a solution to a particular pain point. So figure out what that particular pain point is and write it straight away. So this comes back to a conversation that we were having in the breakout room. Is matching your content to the intent of a user's search is absolutely imperative to making people convert. If it's an informational keyword and it's on a commercial page, it's not really going to drive any value. But if there was an educational section or a blog section on your website and you're putting your informational keywords in there, then it's a good way of driving informational traffic and keeping your commercially beneficial traffic on the service pages. So it's also important to speak your user's language as well. So research the kind of content that they themselves are maybe writing. So if it's operating in the B2B world, you can always find your kind of ideal client's website and how they write, and then not mimic, but use it as inspiration when you're writing the piece. So number 2 is engage. So don't bore your audience with predictable content that all your competitors should churn out, because you see this a lot these days with the rise of generative AI. People are kind of creating similar content to everyone now. So use different storytelling techniques to actually demonstrate a story within your content as well. So that might be, and it sounds very high school English, but breaking it down into a beginning, a middle, and an end. So proposing a question or a query or some kind of myth, and then using the bulk of the content to either prove it right or prove it wrong, and then towards the end, summarize it, link it all back together. That's a great and very easy storytelling technique to put into any kind of informational pages. So another way to engage your audience as well is offer any added value and unique tips that you might have created, or if there's anything, any kind of processes that you've created that are unique, offer them as added value within the content. Another way of engaging people is using multimedia content in your informational section of the website. So that might be infographics or images to sell services, and then making use of video as well. But taking people on a journey through different content is a very powerful way of keeping them engaged whilst they're reading. And then this is something that sounds obvious, but it can slip through the net sometimes. So it's using strong and consistent call to actions. Emphasis on the consistent, because it can get confusing for a potential customer or client when they're going through the website and there's loads of different call to actions, but they go to the same place. So keeping one that's consistent, maybe running a little bit of an A/B test over some potential call to actions, that can help to limit confusion if you keep them consistent. I think having a tone of voice document as well that people can refer to, whether you outsource your content or you're new to the company or you just need a little bit of a reminder, having a tone of voice document in place that people can refer to as kind of like a business Bible or something is quite a valuable asset as well for any business, really. And then the final one is making sure your website's accessible. So making your website's journey to conversion as simple as possible it's imperative to maximize its output. So just a few ways of making sure that that's the case. So you'd remove any content layout shift issues. So again, that's the core web vital that Google lays out as a technical imperative on the website. So you've probably seen it but not known what it's called or something. So that's when like a website will jump without you doing anything, and it's frankly annoying, and Google penalizes any website that has that. Make sure that you're using accessible colors and fonts. So that combination can actually make Google rank you lower if you're not accessible. And then using alt tags for images for readers as well is a good way of increasing your accessibility. That just makes it easy for visually impaired people to be able to read the entirety of your content easily. But by focusing on these elements, you can create content that not only informs a reader but also persuades and motivates your audience to convert. We'll get on to writing unique content. So one of Google's most notorious figures in the SEO world is John Mueller. He's always banging the drum about the importance of unique content. And this comes after the rise of generative AI, after it took center stage, kind of this time last year, and started to really write people's contents, which is not the way that we should be doing SEO. It should be there for a research purpose and to assist us, in productivity, but you should never write the entirety of a piece of content. So at the start of 2024, there was an algorithm update, and it was the first of its kind in that it penalised content that looked like it had been written by AI. This is where this one comes from. So since kind of March time last year, the decline of AI generative content really started to come into fruition. But this is how you can make your content as unique as possible. So we break it down into 6 different points in the office. We use actual storytelling techniques. So this comes back to writing for conversions one as well. So using storytelling techniques in your SEO content can help you to create a narrative, and then you can start to think about any potential industry challenges or what solutions you offer as well. So that's how you create kind of a unique angle for a blog post. So we did one the other day for a particular manufacturing company that we work with that looks at the kind of reshoring of precise parts for different people's supply chains. So that's quite a unique angle, and while the search volume will be low, the conversion rate is likely to be high. So the power of kind of unique angles for blog posts can actually help to increase your conversion rate. Using multimedia and content in blogs is another way of increasing the uniqueness of it. So again, it ties back to the writing for conversions, but infographics and sharing videos is a great way of making it unique. It's also worth creating a variety of content as well. So white papers and long form tutorial style blog content is a great way of making sure that your website is unique. And then creating curiosity in a piece of work as well is a great way of making sure that your content remains one of a kind. So lead with a question, use a client's services or products to answer them. And then within the writing, using cause and effect. So if you're writing and then you can end a sentence and think, so what? You're not answering a question. You're not getting to the entirety of the answer of the question. So if a sentence can drill down further it's probably not finished. So don't just leave that. You need to revisit that time and then really nail what you're trying to say. And then use time, like use more research time within than writing time. Sometimes that can be quite a valuable lesson to learn for when you're writing unique content. Cite your interesting sources, use interviews, and make sure that you're demonstrating the link between different content as well. There's kind of 6 points there of how to write unique content. And now it's time to ask any questions if you've got any.